Welcome back, everyone. It is LaughNgamez here, and today we're back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 cast. Today we're actually casting another game between the same series with NaNiwa and SortOf, since the last game from the series they played was actually so good, so I figured I'd cast another one. We are on Korhal Carnage Knockout for this 1v1, so one of the more crazy maps, and we have NaNiwa spawning in the middle right, and up in the top left, we have SortOf. So, as I was saying earlier, this is one of the more crazy maps in the ladder pool by all means. And that's mainly because there's so many potential spawns on this match. So, really, what the players know is that SortOf is spawning here, and I believe that he knows that NaNiwa could spawn here, here, well, here, 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 and I believe maybe here. So it's not like NaNiwa could spawn down here and SortOf could spawn up here, but they can get some pretty crazy spawning positions, and so these ones are actually fairly interesting. But it seems that both the players are just sort of choosing to play it more macro oriented, like the last game they played, because cheesing someone on this map, and by cheesing I mean rushing, for those of you that aren't too familiar with the term cheese. So rushing on this map isn't actually a solid strategy for early rushes anyway, because, for example, you could get a really far spawn between you two, and there's also rock towers outside of the natural base, so players can destroy those and defend their natural very easily. So it's not exactly a super early aggressive map by all means. So now we actually have SortOf Overlord scouting to where NaNiwa's base will be, so he'll know where NaNiwa spawned, and NaNiwa has actually scouted SortOf, so pretty soon they'll both be knowing where each other spawned. So then that'll sort of give us, the players' strategies will really start to develop from this point on. NaNiwa going for a somewhat early stalker, maybe going to be trying to catch an Overlord or just prepare for some general Zerglings coming his way. SortOf actually carefully moving his Overlord across the back, so he doesn't plan on just floating that over and accidentally losing it to something like an early Stalker from NaNiwa. Now NaNiwa's probably actually going to use the Stalker to knock down the cooling tower, which only has 500 health, and this will give him a great sense of security to defend and to macro up. And speaking of macros, SortOf has his third base on the way, and he's actually playing a very similar style to the last game. He's getting that early Zergling speed, he's getting the pneumatized carapace, so he can actually get faster units. Well, by faster units I mean faster Overlords. So he's going to have the faster Zerglings because of the metabolic boost, the faster Overlords because of the pneumatized carapace, and we actually have NaNiwa proxying a robo up in the top right, very close to SortOf's base, but very out of the way by all means. So this is interesting. So NaNiwa is going to be going for some aggression. He's throwing up 4 gateways. Sorry that I didn't exactly point this out earlier. I was talking about other things that probably won't be relevant at this time. So NaNiwa is putting into a chrono boost into this robotics bay, and he's going for a warp prism. So this is probably going to be a massive gateway attack, and SortOf has scouted this because he got that Overlord speed, so he could get the quick scout, and he's seeing NaNiwa's base, and he's got to be thinking, okay, something's going on here, but he doesn't know. He doesn't know about this robo here. So NaNiwa is getting the warp prism. His gateways are all going to be finishing, so he'll be turning, so he'll be turning them into warp gates, and he's probably going to warp in a few units here maybe, but SortOf actually scouts this robo here. He's going to kill off the probe so it can't build anything else. And so NaNiwa knows he's scouted, so there's a timer on this, and he's actually warping in 5 adepts, 1 to clean up this Zergling, and another 4 that he's going to drop into the base of SortOf. But SortOf has scouted this. He is prepared by all means. So NaNiwa is actually not going to get that much done with this warp prism, so SortOf's in quite a good position. But NaNiwa actually brought his mothership core over to the third base, maybe to catch a few drones at the start or just to scout in general. So this has put us into a very interesting situation. NaNiwa committed a lot to many gateways. and his only source of tech really is on the other side of the map, which is a robo facility, which will not be useful into the late game. So the question is, will NaNiwa try to macro out of this, or is he just going to go for the big attack? It really seems like he is just going to go for the big attack with so many adepts. He's going to use the adept shade to try and split up, kill as many workers as he can. He actually cancels the shade and is moving towards the third base, but there's really nothing at the third base. NaNiwa using a time warp, and he's actually going to be losing so many of these adepts, and he's not really getting any damage done. If you look on the production tab, NaNiwa is making nothing. He only manages to save 2 out of what, maybe 10 adepts? I'm actually not sure what the hotkey for dead units like adepts are, but he's lost a lot, and he's just warping in more, and these ones will likely go down too if they are trapped. So he's going to warp an adept shade over to try and see or do any damage that he can. He actually cancels that shade, and so many of these adepts are going down, and he is not really getting any damage done. NaNiwa is now throwing up 2 Stargates as a transition out of this. He might be going for some Void Rays or Phoenix. Really depends if SortOf's going for a large roach attack, which NaNiwa has seen many roaches. He might be going to be going into double Void Rays to try and clean this up with air superiority, or he could be going into Phoenix to play sort of the more long game. But regardless, he's going to need to be prepared in case SortOf goes for a counterattack. But NaNiwa's actually starting to get some good damage done with these adepts. But he's still only killed 1 worker, so that is simply not enough to really justify this. And he's actually lost a lot more resources than SortOf, whereas things like adepts are supposed to be getting lots of damage done. So now NaNiwa's actually opting to go for 2 Void Rays because he's scared of a potential counterattack, when really all SortOf is going to do is to clean up this robotics bay, kill off the pylon, and essentially secure him safety by all means. This pylon is, there's actually only 3 Zerglings attacking this, but NaNiwa is choosing to do some more harassment instead of trying to save that. He could move the Warp Prism over to possibly save it, but he's choosing not to do that. So let's go back to the protection tab. NaNiwa is still producing those 2 Void Rays. He's Chrono boosting them out, but the Void Rays actually take about 40 seconds to make, so quite a while. Now SortOf is actually getting out. Is going in for an attack. He's breaking. Fortunately, NaNiwa destroyed this rock tower earlier, so SortOf can't really push in because of the Void Rays. So now SortOf has seen the Void Rays and is going for Hydralisk with a Hydralisk den he threw up earlier. And now we notice both players are still on no upgrades. So that's what partially makes it so interesting. Both players are not really macroing, just getting up a bunch of units at this point. NaNiwa is probably going to want to throw down a 3rd base soon because he has been on 2 bases for quite a while. His main base will start to mine out soon. He's saturated his naturals, and so he's now thrown up a 3rd base to try and macro out of this. So this game is looking like it will stabilize a bit, even though NaNiwa never really did much damage with that attack and with those adepts. Really, besides throwing SortOf on tilt is what he did, and sort of stopped macroing. That's really the only damage he did by any sense. NaNiwa still warping in more units. He's got the 1 Warp Prism, and he's gonna try to do some counterattack damage. He really needs to try and do any damage. Now, if we actually see here, NaNiwa's gonna be committing to a high air army. He's already got 4 Void Rays, going to be going up to 6 soon, and he's actually getting +1 attack. So he's going to rely on the air dominance supported by just a few ground units, while SortOf is producing a lot of Hydralisk. 14 Hydralisk will beat 5 Void Rays, particularly if the Queens and Ravagers support them. So it's going to be interesting. Now we actually see here, I didn't mention this before, but every main base has back rocks at the back of it, so that's an attack path that can be abused, and it looks like SortOf is actually going to be going in for either quite a large scare on NaNiwa to try and scare NaNiwa into making more units and not investing into tech, or he is actually going to push in and try to kill NaNiwa. And it looks like it's going to be a 2-pronged attack coming in from SortOf. Lots of Hydras and Ravagers attacking one side, while some more Roaches and Hydras attacking the other. The Void Rays push the Hydras and Roaches on the north back, but now SortOf is coming in. Only these Photon Overcharge pylons are here to defend, and those are being picked off very quickly. So NaNiwa is being split by all means. These 6 Hydralisk are enough to prevent just a few Void Rays going over there and cleaning up these Roaches and Hydras. So NaNiwa's in quite a bad spot. He's far behind in economy. His units are not that good by all means against this composition, but now if we see here, NaNiwa's using these Voiders very smart. He sectioned off all the Roaches and Ravagers and killed them, but his main base is still under heavy attack. He's lost some buildings, but it seems like he might actually stabilize here because his Void Ray count is highly superior by all means. Well, highly superior towards sort of Hydras that are around to fight them. So these Void Rays are actually cleaning everything up at great cost efficiency at this point. NaNiwa was really behind in the resources lost at the start of the game, but now he's brought it, well, he's bringing it back because of how cost efficient those Void Rays are. So now sort of wondering what to do here. so many puns with that name could be made. So he's just been mass producing Hydralisk, which are not that good at fighting because they're so immobile. So with good force fields in these Void Rays, if these Hydras are split up properly, NaNiwa could actually kill these Hydras with all these Void Rays. Not because these Void Rays do have +1 attack, so they're going to deal extra damage. But the problem is these sentries have to go a really long way around to try and engage. So NaNiwa is actually killing his own gateway in order to get access to kill these Hydras, using force fields to try and trap them, shaving a few off. But NaNiwa has really lost his main base, so he's only down to 2 bases, while SortOf is getting up a 4th. He's destroyed those rocks so he can transfer and produce drones easily. And now SortOf is sending in a bunch of Zerglings to try and pick up NaNiwa, actually marching over all his high energy queens, so he's gonna sort of be going for an all-in. Oh, but these sentries are actually picking off so many Hydralisks and killing them with all the Void Rays and force fields. NaNiwa has so many sentries, so many Void Rays, so really his composition is superior in a direct fight, but unfortunately NaNiwa had nothing back to defend those probes, so he actually lost 12 probes. It's only 36 to 62 workers. And SortOf is just doing such a good job abusing these multiple attack paths. He's been coming in from the north, drawing NaNiwa out, and then attacking from another direction. And now SortOf has seen NaNiwa's army is gone down to is down south, so he's moving in with these Hydras. He's going to pick off the Nexus and all these gateways. So NaNiwa's ground force is practically non-existent. His cybernetic core is unpowered, so he's not going to be getting any more Void Ray upgrades, but he's still at 10 Void Rays, which is so good because of how they clump. So they'll just kill a lot of Hydralisks compared to in smaller numbers, particularly with good sentry support. But NaNiwa is still by no means in a good position. He's been trapped on his 3 bases for a long time now. His natural is actually starting to mine out, so he's either got to kill SortOf or get a 4th base, and I think he might be deciding that he needs to kill him, but I'm not sure that 11 Void Rays and 10 sentries are going to be able to do it. Particularly, these Hydras are still harassing him. NaNiwa can be attacked from so many positions, but he actually does clean up a good amount of Hydras there using his Void Rays. Now, as I mentioned before, about 2 minutes ago, maybe more, the army supply was even. Well, the resources lost were even. My mistake, sorry. And now NaNiwa has killed about 4,000 more resources worth of stuff than SortOf has because of how cost efficient NaNiwa is being, but corrosive vials are going down. NaNiwa does not want to lose these Void Rays. There's so much anti-air, so it's really going to depend on NaNiwa getting good force fields to pick off these Hydras, and he's actually siphoned off so many, picking off these high energy queens, which are not transfusing. Lost so many units, and NaNiwa has not lost a single Void Ray, just lost shields on them. So that was a wonderful fight for NaNiwa. The supply gap is closing. So NaNiwa is sort of all in with this. It seems he's going to be going in to attack the 4th base of SortOf, which I'm not sure SortOf will be able to defend because NaNiwa can just... He's still got 10 sentries, so he'll be able to throw down quite a few force fields still. And it's actually going to pick off this 4th base. Now that's going to set SortOf back tons. SortOf is mined out on the main base. His natural is mining out, so it's really just... They'll be on the same amount of bases now. So now NaNiwa actually somewhat has a choice of what he's going to do. And it seems that NaNiwa is bringing this game back just by the fact that he's reaching such a good amount of Void Rays. Void Rays are very expensive. They take quite a while to build up a good number of. That's why we don't see many pros go for them. But NaNiwa has slowly been building his number up to essentially a critical mass of Void Rays. These +1 Void Rays versus these +1 upgraded Hydralisk, and SortOf has just had to invest into this tech to defend that is not necessarily amazing at countering Void Rays. Fungal growth or parasitic bomb would be amazing versus these Void Rays, but that's just really not efficient for him to tech to because he's been investing so much in this defense. And now we actually see here the supply is continuing to close, and I'm not sure that sort of... Oh, these two Void Rays are actually misrallied, though. This could be bad. Okay, NaNiwa fixes that mistake. NaNiwa is secured himself into a much better position, but he still needs to be careful. He's still on only 37 workers, and he's actually throwing up a 4th base now that is close to where SortOf's thrown up his 4th base, which is gonna put NaNiwa in quite a good position, I think, because SortOf is hardly mining, and NaNiwa's got a very good composition. But now, SortOf actually has these Ravagers and so many Queens. I'm not sure NaNiwa can engage into this, just because of how effective Ravagers are versus clumped up units, and these corrosive files are actually going down. They're almost hitting the army, but NaNiwa is continuously pulling back. So many of the sentries have gotten weak because they did absorb a shot from a corrosive file. So many red health sentries here. But these force fields are so amazing. They pick off so much of SortOf's army, and SortOf is burning through transfuses on these Queens. NaNiwa has killed off such a large part of the army, but I'm not sure if he's actually going to have enough to directly engage this. These force fields, so many of these Hydras are back, not defending, and it seems that NaNiwa has actually managed to beat off this army of SortOf. SortOf has lost so much army supply. NaNiwa has actually taken the lead. And sure, NaNiwa lost all of his sentries, but he's still got this critical mass of Void Rays, which SortOf cannot deal with, simply because of the nature of how these units behave. Hydras are not good in large numbers versus large numbers of Void Rays. Sure, they're good versus them statistically, but not when behaving like this. For example, these Hydras in the back, they're not able to attack. NaNiwa is abusing this so well. Even though these Void Rays are getting work, are getting weak, NaNiwa's actually pulling back the weakened Void Rays to get maximum damage done. So many of them are getting weak though now. He needs to be careful, but I think he's already done critical damage to SortOf. SortOf is down to 84 supply. NaNiwa is up at 120, getting up 4th base. SortOf is virtually not mining at all. So SortOf has 8 Hydralisk versus 15 Void Rays. I honestly think that NaNiwa has done this, unless SortOf somehow comes back in this. But I'm not sure there's an ace up SortOf's sleeve. He's in complete shambles. He's fallen apart by all means when it comes to this game. And if we actually look at the resources lost, SortOf has lost 11,000 more than NaNiwa has. So NaNiwa invested so much less into army, but he simply got to a super cost-efficient army. And so now he has worked wonders, and he's still just producing more and more Void Rays. But now we actually see her SortOf is probably just going for anything. So he's thrown up for the gold base in the middle, knowing that it's a wide open area that NaNiwa could possibly not abuse. But NaNiwa doesn't necessarily need to take a good fight here. He's got double the army supply of SortOf picking off this base. He's not going to give SortOf a chance to macro back up, and these Void Rays could just directly engage this, and SortOf realizes this. GG, NaNiwa takes the game with another interesting play of air style that brought him back from a very bad position. So thanks for watching, guys. These games between NaNiwa and SortOf have been very interesting, so I might do another PvZ, but the next cast I'll do will probably be something not PvZ. Just give us some variety. Feedback is always appreciated, and thank you for watching.